feel like I'm that guy, yeah. So know the one you talking to, you way outside your line, yeah. Go against the tribe, you lose your... Let me not even say this shit. I just ran out of my patience. I just got tired of waiting and got here myself. Niggas want me to believe in the dream that they see for themselves and still doubt in themselves. They might as well light up the L. High top on 10 toe, drip retro. Talking major plays, hella high tech through the getro. Pin game, been petro. Just set it in the flesh hole. Send a text mail to give a wet clothes. On the vapor wave to make a drip drip with the left lobe in the left stroke. Flex up. I'ma make plays, I'ma go long. Never look back so long. Yeah. Flex up. Shawty on 10, finna go up. Bring that to the crib, let me show love. Yeah. Flex up. I'ma make plays, I'ma go long. Never look back so long. I need a bag. Flex up. I need a tag, yeah. Shawty on 10, finna go up. Bring that to the crib, let me show love. Ayy, come from the pit, I'm out of the trench, my nigga, we look at the dread, my nigga, we ran, she all on my way. I never let them play me, but they claiming that they know my songs. I tell them quote the lines until I'm goated, bitch, I'm going off. Loyal to my soil and the culture, I'm that chosen one. I just got a bag, she wanna fuck, I think she know I'm star. I can't do no wrong, look in her eyes, she wouldn't know I'm scarred. They try to justify me going up like they don't know he raw. Off of that doja, fuck what they told you, I'm never sober. Gripping the spliff of the chip on my shoulder, trying to decode this. They label me thug, I keep it a buck, I don't give a fuck about it. Out of the mud, they showing me love, my nigga, what's up? Out of my way, bitch, I need the paper. Fuck what you want, I mean, I know later. I keep it short with the conversation. Out of my lane, the coupe got a brain in the cockpit with no hands on it. I've been the man with the plan, homie. Flip that to the man with the bands on me and a passport with the stamps on it. Yeah. I'ma make plays, I'ma go long. Never look back so long. Yeah. Shawty on 10, finna go up. Bring that to the crib, let me show love. Next up. I'ma make plays, I'ma go long. Never look back so long. I need a bag. Next up. I need a tag, yeah. Shawty on 10, finna go up. Bring that to the crib, let me show love.
Best believe it, ask for it, you receive it. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it, ask for it, you receive it.
Ask for it, you receive it. Got it locked, put the key in. Got them looking, yeah, they praying. She like, I like what I'm seeing.
Now we up, they agreeing, play full, yeah, we eating. Now you can't ignore this feeling when you got it from seeing.
Why these niggas built in? You found love, why you cheating? She know that I'm never leaving. They won't beef, but they vegan.
I don't know why they on that. Get a pack, then I roll that. She got ass, tell her throw that. Start her on, it's a throwback.
Just a straight roll, I don't even pay tolls. The boy a genius and I ain't talking yay though. Been a living legend since I was like a day old. I remember days though, listening to J. Cole.
I remember days though, listening to Drake though. Had to up my profile, had to up my payroll. Getting too high, yeah, you know I had to lay low. Getting too fried, eating on some fucking big dough. Yeah, I came through, and you know I had to make do.
Life these days.
The all-new Hyundai Kona. Seriously fun.
But one that brought the levels raised in the Asphalt Kings Malta GT3 Championship with you on Gaming Malta, along with Hyundai, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and JACAP as well. My name is Jake Sperry. Adam Reed is alongside me for the ride. We are at Watkins Glen here for the second round of the championship. And Adam, it is a beautiful track of high speed and overtaking, and a lot of tactics need to be administered over the course of action today.
Hi Jake, absolutely. We're in for an absolute thriller, I think. Watkins Glen, new circuit that I'm about to commentate on, but yeah, it's awesome from all the video footage that I've seen, the pictures as well. Very picturesque circuit. It's hosted many brilliant series in the past, from your NASCARs to your Indy cars, and from your IMSA, where there's tech sports cars that obviously go there for their 6-hour endurance race. But as you said, yes, it's a fast flowing circuit. Up the hill through the S is one of the most famous parts of that circuit, and of course you've got that very fast chicane before then heading into the shoe, or that I like to or the boot, that is usually called there over in the US. But also that final corner will be quite tricky to try and get all the power and keep the momentum out of there and try and get up close to the barrier. And I really think we're in for a really superb time around the Glen.
I think we absolutely are, and I'm very much looking forward to how we are going to be battling today. This is going to be a very important round, this second round, because we saw how, okay, round one over at Interlagos is one matter of fact. If we can take a look at the calendar, that will certainly give us the opportunity then to say what is coming up on the horizon. Watkins Glen here starting a double header here in terms of US circuits before the European trifecta, which comes along, and then of course heading over to the Asian continent for Fuji and Mount Panorama to finish off the season. But Watkins Glen as a second round of the championship, leading to the Raceway Laguna Seca in a week's time. Adam, how important is it that Watkins Glen forms a strong base, knowing that the opening half of the season here, I think, is going to be one of the most important to get correct?
I think it's going to be interesting. Of course, second round of the championship is still trying to find your rhythm amongst maybe a new game for some drivers, but also a new circuit. So it'll be very tough to try and get to grips with. I'm sure our drivers done a lot of practice over the the past days, but yeah, I think there's going to be a lot to kind of think about going into this second round. Of course, if you do have a bit of a hiccup here, it doesn't really matter, but at this moment in time, but then you get into the first the stage of the championship, as you say, the European stages, that's a European trifecta, as you started mentioning, and then you go into the 2 Asian rounds. That's where you need to start bringing in the points and getting those results. So I think if you are to have a hiccup now, it will be one of these American rounds. Other than that, you'll have to be in form for the rest of the season. Otherwise, yeah, I think you're going to have a bit of a rough ride.
Well, for Ilana Dimek Gishi, that was pretty much as perfect as it could be in the Honda NSX GT500. A slew of 4 Porsches behind in the forms of George Page, Clint Orland and Jonathan Spiteri. You then had Jake Samet finish off in 5th position in that 4th of the Porsches. And then you had Denzel Agius, Ayrton Birmingham in 7th, leading Ivan Birmingham in 8th, Branton Pulis 9th, and Christian Samet in 10th. Ilan Dimek getting both fastest lap and pole position with those times, half a second's difference worth there. It was pretty much a domination from a piece of machinery known back in the JTC days. Some very, very old machinery, and what you'd also call there, Adam, a bit of Gran Turismo staple.
Absolutely, that's it's nice that you kind of mentioned that, and how good with those cars. But yeah, you can see the standings now pretty much exactly the same as what we left off from Ilan Dimek, of course, in that Honda, really putting a brilliant performance, and now of course George Page and Clint Orland alongside him. But yeah, that's how the standings will go, the usual Formula 1 standings. But of course, that's going to be hope for a really interesting one here around Laguna Seca. Not Laguna Seca, my apologies. Watkins Glen. We're at the Glen today, but yeah, for sure that these drivers have to be on top of their game. And I do wonder if we are going to see one of those Porsches maybe take the fight to the Honda NSX this evening, because of course I'm not entirely sure what the performance is going to be like from either car, and of course we do have a Lexus in the middle of that, but I feel like there are going to be some good stuff here, and of course that field of Porsches does seem to be about a feel with them, but can they take that fight to that Honda? Because at the moment in time it is still leading at this moment in time.
It is 3.943 kilometers worth of length, 11 corners on the classic layout we've got out here. We've got a wonderful run here through the inner loop, which gives that run, of course, to the boot section of the circuit. The toe and the heel of the boot might be some of the really important corners out there. Some say the laces are the top. I like to call it the instep, but those laces are going to be big. And then, of course, those final 2 corners, 10 and 11, those 90-degree corners always throw up an opportunity for overtakes out there. A lot of elevation change, 35 meters worth of it over the course of the lap on a track that opened in 1948 originally. This layout of the circuit remaining unchanged since 1992. Adam, I think it pretty much sets up for overtaking. That back stretch is going to be the perfect place to find a pass today.
Absolutely, it's all about momentum around this circuit. If you can get the 90 right, and then of course the S's will be a huge place to gain that momentum, and you'll find yourself going into the back stretch with a whole host of opportunities. You've got to try and fit it down the inside of the inner loop, and if someone does get a little bit feisty, then it could lead to a little bit of chaos. But yeah, I think that chicane may cause a couple of issues, especially if we see some close contention. But we'll be able to see kind of where the performances stand once we get into qualifying. Yeah, you go into a really nice flowing section before then going into outer loop and finding yourself going very, very technical for a couple of corners before going into the fast flowing stuff. So kind of cutting this circuit in half, right in the middle, down the back stretch, all the way to the penultimate corner. The right side of the circuit, very technical. The left side of the circuit, that's going to be very, very quick. So almost kind of having to divide your setup and maybe how you approach the circuit as well. This is the beauty here of Watkins Glen, I think.
Yeah, and it's a circuit that has so much ability out there in upstate New York to create a lot of differences out there compared to what we saw at the opener at Interlagos. We're going to be on the other side of this commercial break, ladies and gentlemen, because when we come back, we are into full swing, and it will be qualifying to see who will put themselves up on pole position in your GT7 Asphalt Kings here, your Malta GT3 Championship.
How I'm loving life these days.
The all-new Hyundai Kona. Seriously fun.
And so then over to qualifying, where we find ourselves in what is the darker stages out there, the twilight at this moment in time, which will create a few different challenges out there in terms of putting the racing together. There is Kyokudo. Nice to see him here at this second round of the championship, looking to make a push forward, a driver who was right up there in the championship hunt when we were running championships, of course, last season. So definitely a driver worth keeping a bit of contention with. And everybody getting themselves situated. This is not naturally a track here, Adam, that has much lighting around the circuit. When it gets dark, it gets dark.
It really, really does, and it's just one of those circuits where you have to keep alert as well, especially going into this kind of dusk stage. I do think you have to keep your wits about you just that little bit more, because of course the visibility starts to dim a little bit, especially going up that hill. You don't really see much, and then when you look over the horizon, you're just seeing a dark cloud. Yeah, it doesn't really spell much for you. You can kind of use maybe the name tags to a reference. But that's really all you're going to get here. And you can already see attacking that chicane section. I think, from what I'm seeing on the right hand side, I believe that lap time did get invalidated.
Yeah, that won't be good there for Kyokudo, and we're going to be seeing that quite a bit over the course of qualifying here, Adam, because drivers are going to be wanting to attack the outer loop, inner loop section and really throw everything down on the board. So by the time that you actually reach that section, you've just gone through 4 corners. You haven't really had a massive test on the brakes. So you get to that test on the brakes, so easy just to overshoot by a meter left or right.
It is very much so. It's almost thread the needle kind of type of stuff through that chicane section. You've got to get it right up to the barriers. I'd love to get an onboard with one of our drivers through that section, just to kind of show off how technical that bit is. It is very, very fast, and there you can see one of our kind of driver onboard cameras and through the eyes as well, so we'll be able to maybe get a lap on board this week. You can already see how close you're going up to the barriers on that left hand side there, but time's deciding to fall down as Kyoto Racing goes up to P1 there, heading in towards the 90 right, and already a couple of cars just in front of him, so he's having to maybe play a bit of awareness game there.
Really getting a sense here of how much you have to climb up, and Kyoto Racing at 600ths of a second clear out there at this moment in time is doing what he needs to, almost 2/10 up in that first sector. But if you're gonna batter up against the walls like that, all that time could just be abandoned. Super Uber there just behind in second. JACAP currently in third here, Adam, and you're getting a sense that qualifying is going to be tight, and because they're all out there at the same time, it might just be who have you got as a drafting partner later on. I think we've just lost Adam here, so we'll hopefully be able to get him back in the not too distant future. But cresting the rise up here along the sole of the shoe over towards the heel and getting as much of a run as possible here. It is MMR Super Uber now heading towards turn 9, off camber every which way you look at it. An incredibly tough corner to go and wrap your head around, and MMR Super Uber is 2/10 up pretty much here through the middle sector, and it's only a couple corners left. Glen there just in front there. Oh, sorry, that was going to be GRG.GG finding himself there. Addicts moving up third fastest. Drivers able to improve on their second lap time, and MMR Super Uber going to the pole by 1/10 of a second faster than his previous lap, 0.5 of a second clear of Kyokudo. There is Addicts, who finds himself now in that third position and really trying to make some progress pay right now. 1/10 of a second down in the opening section, and really trying to rock it through and power that run about. Addicts now running through the middle sector, looking for opportunities here, Adam, to hopefully move up an extra couple of positions in the Martini Porsche.
Absolutely, I think it's just very, very crucial to just try and get as much as you can out of these lap times. It's just one of those tracks where you have to really try and find the limit and use as much of the circuit you can. Of course, we do still have our Honda up at the top end of the circuit, so again, carrying that momentum from last time around from Interlagos, bringing it up north from the Americas, and of course putting it on top so far. But yeah, Ayet and Birmingham or Addicts in that Martini Porsche really finding the momentum here in third place, and doesn't look too bad. But that's where he's kind of thrown away going into that left-hander. He's just lost a little bit of momentum, I feel like, and he's now going to have to try and claw that back. Still plenty of opportunities all throughout this qualifying session to get a time in. Does he kind of did he improve on this one? No. 4/10 to the well, not to the good, the bad, I should say, but still remains in that top 10, sorry, top 3, I should say, keeping on strong pace here.
Well, look at the times that were just coming in. MMR Super Uber improved to a 43.7, but Kyokudo finds a 43.5 and puts the margin there. Clint Orland goes to 4th position, then with that time 0.5 second adrift, and JACAP is the one who is dropping a little bit further back in the Rexy Machine Porsche out there at this point. So there are the drops that are starting to find their way forward, and everyone's going to be looking around. They've got 20 minutes here in qualifying to go and set their times. And what we are noticing is that the later that this is going to go on, the colder this track is going to get, the faster this track is going to get, with more rubber being laid down upon it.
Yeah, it's kind of better both worlds in that case. We should see time really going into the low 43s. You can see the sun is really starting to dim close to New York. The track here is JACAP, who's just trying to improve from that 5th place. Of course, it would put him on the 3rd row of the grid so far. For someone like JACAP, he would want to be higher up, and all he has to do to continue pushing, find any piece of time that he can, use every piece of the circuit, and look to maybe make an improvement. And that is going to be the one thing here I was kind of wondering, the pit lane, because of course you're racing, of course, you have to keep room because it's such a difficult pit lane to enter. Keep on the inside, and then hopefully not hit anyone. Because I've seen a couple of cases in Gran Turismo 7 where there has been contact at that final corner because one driver wants to go into the pit lane. And for sure, it's going to be one to keep an eye out for. Hopefully, we don't get into that territory. But yeah, just a tiny problem that needs to be kind of addressed and potentially a danger for later on in the race.
But GRG improving there in 8th position, keeping himself a bit of space to Jensen and Button out there, who is obviously looking for a little bit of help and support out there in the YouTube chat as well, saying go, go, go. But we got a lot to try and get through here at almost the halfway stage. Dens there at what is 7th position out there at the moment in that Lexus, and of course Dens, the reigning champion, having a tough start to the championship, getting it all sorted and together. So after all of that, that is a personal best first sector, about 400s up to the good. So now the charge is going to be, how do you find the middle sector? A little bit of grass there, certainly not helping. And again, another Porsche out there for Jensen and Button, trying to get some British Racing Green going.
He is absolutely in that one. I'm just pushing here on the second lap. Let's just see how this second lap goes about, because trying to feed the car through the S section, trying to maybe find a position or two this time around, but you can see how Jensen and Button will approach this chicane, turns in pretty early, then gets the car slowed down for the second part, then just goes and cuts on the grass, and I think that might be a validation. It doesn't say anything on the time there, but there you go, there's the 1 second. So a little check from the stewards in the game. And of course, a second time penalty has been given in that one. That's Zilanu in the pit lane getting his fresh set of boots, and the 92 will head out onto the circuit.
So back out and away again, Shalini down in 10th. There is Ozzy in 11th, likes of Chaos, and Ivan 46 down there in 13th position. So there is going to be work for those drivers, but again, it just goes to show you how close this series has become. 1.1 seconds splitting the top 11 drivers out there at this point. You would say last season that you were hoping for 3 seconds between the top 11 out there, trying to navigate down the hill at the 90, and Chris Samet finds a bit of time improvement as well and will potentially jump some positions with those times, but your top 3 remaining unrocked out there at this point. Shalini with a little bit of penalty going forward, but Christian Samet down in 14th, not necessarily happy. A 10th second to the good for Kyokudo. When you miss a round of the championship, Adam, that I think is going to be a rather interesting scenario for Kyokudo to go through, because you've effectively got to take a non-start as a non-finish, so to speak. So the margins out there when you're qualifying and racing are razor thin.
Yeah, it's going to be an interest to see how Kyokudo goes into not just his qualifying session, but this kind of race, because that's where all the points will be awarded. And he's up against strong contenders. You already see MMR Super Uber, a winner last time around there in the Honda, just not being able to close the gap in that turn. But also some Birmingham, who had a bit of a difficult last time around. He will take 3rd place in that one, personal best for him, and of course Ichaku, a lot of competitive drivers, but he's managing himself really well, really well, is Kyokudo. I really do believe he had that ability to get a result out of this, especially in his first run in Asphalt Kings series. I do believe he is on for a strong kind of opening so far. Qualifying not going too bad. It'll be again the race where the pressure will then start to set, and you have to try and soak that in like a sponge and follow that up, hopefully with a good result. But that's easier said than done, Jake.
Yeah, very much is. And we are seeing then in with 6.5 minutes in qualifying that a lot of these qualifying times, or a lot of the work that's being done, will be easier said than done, as we see GRG.GG having to move all the way to the outside and really trying to find that angle, gets the clearance in towards the chicane. And sometimes you're not going to get even traffic that's going to be working against you. You'll have some drivers on out laps, some drivers on in laps. And really, in the final stages, you want a lap that is just 100% unimpeded.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of the whole, that's kind of like what you want as a racing driver in qualifying. The thing you mostly want is a clean lap. That is, for a racing driver, a clean lap to get your best time in, but it's never guaranteed. It really isn't guaranteed, and depending on the way the circuit is, there will be possibilities that you might not be able to get that. There's a lot of space there. You can see that in that first sector at this moment in time, and look how crowded that boot section is. So it might be worth just sitting in the pits for a couple of moments, getting that fresh set of boots at one stage, and just finding a piece of clear track. Maybe even picking up a slipstream and just trying to find a way to get a tow all the way down that back stretch toward the chicane. So super interesting in that kind of part as grg.gg heads for the pit lane down in 9th place there. So really interesting how a lot of these drivers are going to get along here, and we're 15 minutes now into the session, all to play for still here at Watkins Glen at the time, continue to tumble.
And you're seeing a lot of those fuel numbers there on the side, a little bit lower down than what we've seen at the start of the session. Drivers will be on that low fuel load, trying to massively improve on their times and hope that by not having fuel in the car, they can go out there, they can challenge here in the Asphalt Kings and get that final lap time in. Yves JACAP, by the way, has moved up into 2nd position, and that is a quick first sector out there for Dens. Not necessarily the quickest out there, but 0.08 of a second quicker than his best, currently 0.8 of a second down in the Lexus. Now looking to try and run through then what is the carousel and in towards the chute corner, which descends and descends and descends. You've got to wait for the power to get put back on here. A lot of these corners are not necessarily tight, although you've got hairpins out there. You do still carry a surprising amount of speed around Watkins Glen.
You really do. I do agree with that with you, Jake. But yeah, again, keeping it a good 10th up there. But that penalty is going to be costly, unfortunately. And I wonder if that's going to, that's completely invalidated lap time. So 3 invalidated lap time there from Dens. And he's a really quick driver. But it's just overstepping the mark that's costing him as well. So he's got to take that penalty. He's then got to go and push and maybe have to play a bit of safe mode to get a better lap time in. So it's Kyokudo from JACAP, from Super Uber, and then I'm not entirely sure who was in 4th place. I'm sure your memory might be better than mine. Oh, there you go, Addicts, followed by JS19, all an Aussie Dens. Top 8 in that one, continuously getting closer and closer, even 4/10 separate that top 5. What about that, Jake?
Yeah, it's certainly looking close out there, and JS19 is hoping that his 43.9 can be improved on here in qualifying. He's been quite quiet. We haven't really seen the Knight Rider machine in pitch black out there. He's going to be impossible to see. Purple first sector, though, and a heck of a lot of barrier, which will pretty much say goodbye lap time.
Oh, that was so unfortunate. He was on for a really good time. Your eyes lit up when you saw that purple. It always does. But any racing viewer or commentator or whoever, you see that purple, your eyes just light up. But then that barrier hit was the crucial bit, and that's what happened when you turn in too early. You just find yourself with a face full of barrier, and that destroyed. Of course, he's still got about 2 minutes left, but of course, that is not long whatsoever.
No, it really isn't. And inside those final 2 minutes, they are allowed to finish the lap that they start. The gap set, or 3/4 of a tenth for Kyokudo out there at this point. We've got everything sorted at this moment, but those times could very easily change. Rexy there, Yves JACAP in 2nd, Super Uber there, part of MMR out there, and is going to be certainly hoping that the Mafia Mooses are going to be quite happy. You got Addicts there in 4th, and then JS in 5th. So you got a real eye here on drivers hoping to try and get those lap times in and in time. Clint Orland moving up to 4th position, then jumps Addix and JS with that lap time, cruising in on a 43.8.
Now, GRG.GG has made his personal best, but it's only good enough for 8. So, starting on that 4th row at this moment in time, but just continuing the laps with Eva Jaku, and we are about to approach another split for Jaku. So let's see what the Porsche is looking like at this moment in time as he crosses the timing across the beam, and it does look like he's again 7/10 off, so not ideal whatsoever, but I think it's just a constant push. A flash of the light saying get out of the way to Super Uber in 3rd place there. So the Honda will be asked to get out of the way, but now he's starting to back off here, so potentially going to use the Honda as a slingshot all the way up the hill from the S's to the back straight and then in toward that inner loop, but it'll be a bit of a difficult kind of strategy to do because Super Uber would be on a best lap, and Kyokudo has gone even faster at 43.457 last time around for the Porsche.
Yeah, that gives a 2/10 buffer, and this is now the final lap. The clock has struck, and now it's about everybody getting over the line. 100-meter boards go flying. Clint Orland, a driver hoping for a lap time that is magical here. Yellow headlights on out there at this point. I believe it's a choice for drivers in terms of which regulations that they want to use for the headlights. Shalini will find the barriers. Dens puts up a 43.9, goes 7th fastest with that time. Orland does not improve on that lap time. Addix then crossed the line, didn't get what he wanted, and there goes the move then from JS up into 4th position then. Osbert Zwerb with a 43.8 is going to move up the orders too. So we're really seeing that movement happening then. Aussie now goes to 6th. You got MMR Super Uber though on this final lap, tugging Eve Jaku along through the middle sector. We've got to get an eye on some sector times to see whereabouts these two are going as they run in lockstep. 300s up, that's not good enough for Eve Jaku. Out there at the moment, needs a little bit more time in order to gain position, but if you feel like Eve Jaku's improving, watch out for that Honda NSX to try and start challenging part of the JGC rule set in the early 2000s. The 2001 spec car is now trying to really manufacture 800s up in the 3rd sector. Yeah, it's purple in that middle sector there for Super Uber. And now you can see all the road being used. And Kyokudo goes even quicker and finds 0.4 of a second of a gap. So Super Uber with it all to do, heading to the line, is going to be a 10th short there in 2nd position. Eve Jaku can't improve and stays 3rd. What a wonderful qualifying that is. But Kyokudo came to race.
Absolutely, very, very tight there at the end. Big lap there from Super Uber as well. Really good stuff from everyone there. But those top 3 were really applying the pressure on each other. You just saw flashes of green and purple and personal best there. But there is kind of the grid set there. Kyokudo with a 10th to a Super Uber. Eve Jaku maybe a little bit disappointed with that 3rd place, followed by JS, Orland and Aussie. Now we have the 2 Brits on the 4th row of the grid with Alex in his Porsche and Dens in his Lexus. He would have been hoping for more, but alas, he ends up 7/10 shy of Kyokudo's times. That's kind of where your top 8 stands this moment in time. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing kind of what race trim looks like. A lot of these drivers use every piece of circuit, which is really good to see. But I think we'll then have to see what race spec is like, because I think some drivers may prefer qualifying, some do prefer the their race pace. So it really does differ between each driver.
Yeah, I think Dens is the one driver to look out for in a race. Always has the ability to climb up the order and make something happen today in a race here in the Asphalt King Series, which is brought to you by GamingMalta, by Hyundai, by Intercomp, by Sunshine Snacks, by Level Academy, and by JACAP. Out at this moment. We are looking so happy for what's coming up in terms of this race. 40 minutes long, and we are looking at one stop or potentially 2. It depends how aggressive you want to be out there. But traditionally, we've seen it be one-stop races in this series, especially when we saw drivers going upwards of nearly half an hour trying to get in at the latest possible with fuel and tyres to make that stop to the end.
Yeah, I do think the one-stop strategy will be the best strategy. You can perfectly execute a two-stop strategy, which will be very, very much on the limit. I do think fuel will be a massive factor, and if you do play it risky with the fuel, which kind of seems like that's the way it's going to go, you are running a big risk of running out and dropping all your points. So
yeah,
it might be a safe bet to play with the one-stop, but sure, it's going to be massively interesting to see if someone does go on that alternative strategy.
Well, that we will see on the other side of this commercial break. When we come back, it's race time over at Watkins Glen.
See it falling into place. It's the right time, right place. How I'm loving life these days.
The all-new Hyundai Kona. Seriously fun.
For these drivers, they get a little bit of practice over together. We will be racing out there, and I believe we already are out there at this point. So there's been a mad scramble off of the start, as everyone sees there's a bit of troubles out there, and I think there's requests for a restart out there in terms of this one going forward. So something's gone wrong here off the start. This does happen here in sim racing, that the grid doesn't form necessarily as everybody expects out there, Adam. So a little bit of a delay to proceedings, and that is something that does happen, and these drivers will get a second chance to re-rack.
Absolutely, it's online racing, it's sim racing, it's going to happen, and when these things do happen, we have to be prepared for it. And I'm sure there will be a bit to talk about before we get into the actual action. But yeah, just first of all, kind of what are you kind of thinking in terms of these opening stages of this race, Jake? Because of course there's a lot of competitive drivers out there, some in the midfield that will try and push forward. But yeah, kind of where do you kind of think that will happen in this kind of first stage of this race?
So what I think is going to happen in this race is that the early stages are going to be about finding yourself in drafting range. It's a question about who's going to be able to close down the gap, and that run on the early stages, I think, is going to be rather important. So I'm not necessarily thinking that this is going to be a tall order race or a tough race for those at the front. I think it's those in the middle or the rear who are going to be in a little bit more of a stickier situation because they've got the gaps to try and chase down, and if they fall outside the slipstream ranges, it becomes incredibly difficult to bring that gap back. Not impossible, just difficult, and that's what I think is going to come up. But Adam, in terms of what you see for the opening of this race, where do you stand?
I think it's going to be difficult for the midfield drivers because, of course, they want to push forward. You know, you got both Addicts and Dens on that fourth row. They're going to be watching. They'll be hoping to push forward. And like you said, look out for Dens. He's a quick driver in race pace, so definitely I'm going to try and keep with that and stick with that because he does seem like a hopeful driver that will look for maybe a top 5 finish. And if he starts trying to push forward, but it just gets involved in those battles, then those top points are going to start running away from him, and it is going to be a little bit of orderly fashion, but he will see a few tussles here now and again, and also the top 3 would just try and battle with himself. I think that's where the tactics are going to come in. Those top 3, you know, they're all believing, sitting in their sim rigs, thinking, I can win this race. I have the potential to win this race, and especially with Super Uber, he's going to build off that momentum of that win in Interlagos. He has some momentum with him. He's got a little bit of a boost behind him, thinking I can beat the rest of this pack. Also, you got the new driver, of course, Kyoto, or however you kind of pronounce that one, but of course a pole sitter, bossing the field in that one in his kind of first round of the Asphalt Kings, and I do think that he does have the potential to win this race, but it'll be difficult, especially stepping into this kind of blind, not knowing the pace of the other drivers, and I think he will have a lot of work to do despite starting from the front.
Yes, you got Kyokudo up there at the front, who is going to be trying to keep everybody at bay, pushing everyone around. I am just getting some word in out there at the moment that these drivers are looking to try and get themselves situated up on the grid. So there'll be a manual grid start, which will be there. What we're going to do here while we are in the break at this moment in time between sessions, we're just going to step away for one moment. We'll be back with you once we got the session up and running together, and we will be back to racing and running from Watkins Glen.
So, clear out the room, I'm coming through. They wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill. I'm on a paper route. Extra, read about it. I'm today's trending topic. I put commas over bullshit. Yeah, I put that on mamas. They tryna block all my blessings. They thought I lost for stepping. I bet on me and my team. ISO is what I'm repping. Put on for the whole city. Yeah, I got them rocking with me. I bet on me and my team. ISO is what I'm repping. Sending emojis. I'm blowing a pack of that OG. Don't be acting like you know me.
With that, it looks like we're about to go racing here at Watkins Glen. And we go racing here. Kyokudo Racing leads from the front here as Super Uber look to try and catch up with the Porsche. There's a bit of caught napping there. Well, the Porsche now climbs through the 90 right and on toward the S section of the sun. Once again in the darkness here, so we may fall into the night. They follow their way up through the S and into towards the chicane they'll head, but Slipstream is now going to start for the first time in this race, and with Eve Jarku as well, in towards the chicane they go, and he's going to get pretty close here as well. They'll have to keep in the rhythm here and build that kind of momentum. They head through Super Uber, getting pretty close to that Porsche there, and we're in for a tight race here, Jake.
We absolutely are, and that for Super Uber is a close start, but not quite what he was hoping for, to jump up forward and gain that place. We saw JS19 running a little bit wide out there going forward, but the early stages of this one, Super Uber needing to do a little bit of work. Kyokodo's got the coverage there, and there is JS19. Orland then giving chase. Aussie there in 6th position's got his eyes focused forward, and Addix also looking to try and improve out there over the course of this race. And already 1 second's worth of slowdown, and at the top of the hill at the crest, it is the toughest place to serve it, and you absolutely get momentum effectively slapped by like a brick wall.
You do in that case, and very unfortunate there for Chaos. He's got involved in a little bit of chaos himself, but through these next sweeping section of corners, Kyokodo has found a little bit of momentum to try and break away from Super Uber. So really, I mean, it's a bit of Constantino effect and then winding back out there, but already putting towards that pit wall. Kyokodo Racing feeling a bit of pressure here from that Honda. I wonder how the straight line speed is on that Honda, and that could be the difference between victory and defeat here. So obviously already seeing a difference between the straight line speed and the cornering. So the Porsche will be better in the right side, as I said. So as you're seeing on the map then, the top right, the southern part, but the northern part will be more towards Super Uber, and already piling on the pressure is going to be the Honda. But does he have the speed going into the chicane? Not really a place to overtake because it's so quick through there, and again having to back out. But the next place to overtake, it might be down to that carousel section. What about it, Jake?
Well, what about it? That is where Super Uber, I think, is going to have to be quite alert now to where he finds that move. With Kyokodo there, they're dragging Eve Jarku along for company. These three here on lap 2 have already been able to break away from the rest of the field. A bit of side-by-side back there with Addix and Orland going at it for position. So they're certainly at it at the toe of the boot, and you can see it there as the groups go through. Kyokodo hard to the inside, and behind that JS19, and now it's Aussie and Addix who find themselves swapping places. Aussie now into P5, but can Addix launch one down the inside at the heel of the boot? Answer's no, single file it goes.
Yeah, I think it's no point taking any risks here. Addix trying around the outside there for Aussie. It looks to maybe cut back on the inside or getting a little bit close there. He does seem to be desperate to make that move. He might have some great race pace in these early stages, but just think about the drop off here, because he doesn't want to be pushing too hard in that Martini Racing livery Porsche. He needs to keep on terms with everybody else, but make those moves nice and cleanly. A Super Uber in that Honda playing a little bit of a game here, just needs to keep himself within Kyokodo's slipstream, and Eve Jarku also playing a little bit of backup here. He just needs to keep in his position for now and just let those two battle out in front.
So that's where those two in front are doing well. Eve Jarku is, though, clinging, and that's what we're seeing here. It's now 0.6 of a second. You can't afford to drop a 10th here, a 10th there forever, because that time will absolutely bleed away, and once you lose the slipstream, there's the trouble. Look at the try down the hill. Super Uber left, right, up, down. He tried the Konami code to try and make the pass, and it didn't quite manifest. So MMR Super Uber needing to find a little bit of something. Kyokodo is planting the car where he needs to, and Super Uber gets contact, trying to go up and under, and thank you very much, says Eve Jarku, who now moves up into second after Super Uber tried to get a bit cute.
He really is starting to a bit of pressure on him. I think Jarku just made the bet of a bit of a mistake there from Super Uber, just trying to go too early. As he had time to hold back in that one, yes, it would have been a straightforward a trio car just going around the circuit. But sometimes you need to take a little bit of time there, and our current championship leader had now dropped down to third, but Kyokodo will be just happy he has kept that lead, and again go to the pit wall trying to break that toe. do think he's going to just try and break away from Eve Jarku here, but how easy is that going to be? Because it's going to be tough, especially with Eve Jarku showing a lot of pace throughout that qualifying session. I'm sure that will be translated over. But what about this battle, Jake?
What about this one here for P4 and P5? Out there on circuit, this is JS19 against Aussie, and Aussie's been running the gauntlet, place on place on place, and Porsche versus Porsche, Leipzig Power versus Leipzig Power, over to that outside and trying to make it happen through the chicane. A bit of contact between them. JS still holds the line and takes the place. Aussie has to leave the door open. Addicts, that is brute forcing a way through. Absolutely ruthless stuff there by Addicts in the Martini Porsche.
Beautiful move there from the Englishman. He now looking to try and break himself up into the top 4. Speaking of breaking into, we're now breaking into this battle for the top 3 here. The 3 Maltese drivers, some of our fastest we've got here in the Asphalt King series, going at it. But I think Super Uber just trying to keep himself reset from his earlier misdemeanor, and he looks to try and maybe take Eve Jarku here. He'll be trying to think forward of where he can make that move. I think the first opportunity they will have is down toward that first corner, the 90. It's a good overtaking opportunity, and with purple sectors glowing like you're at a disco, I think he has that opportunity to go through, but half a second being given to him. That's going to be costly in the long run here, Jake.
Well, more than just the long run, the short run, because it'll be at the toe of the boot. He will have the brakes jammed on. You can see the glowing brake discs there as he goes to the stop in his Castrol NSX colours, and he will have to serve that half a second, and it will feel like a lot more, and in fact it will probably take him out of range here of Eve Jarku. That's what he's going to be hoping for, that he doesn't drop too much time by losing all that pace. He's got a long gap of about 5 seconds back to Addicts, who now finds himself in 4th position, but he's going to take advantage immediately here of Eve Jarku. Dives down the inside, moves up into 2nd, but look at how much time this is going to be costing these drivers right now, because you've let him through and you're going to have to see that place go back. Aussie still not giving up here on JS19, but not for 4th this time, now for 5th.
Yeah, just looking at this, the trio, Aussie looking to try and maybe make a move here. JS19 keeping defense in the all-black Porsche. How defensive do you want to play it? Of course, Addicts managed to sneak through in that one, but so the battle for 5th will be as the best they can possibly do, through the right hand of the tone, accelerating over the crest. You can see there the whole host of cars going through there. There's Dens in the Lexus. He's had a bit of a difficult time so far, starting on that 4th row alongside his fellow Brit, but he's obviously dropped a place or 2. I believe he has dropped a place, so not quite the maybe not quite the one he was hoping for. And that is going to be, that might be Chaos again.
It's a little bit of chaos for Chaos, who now falls backwards into 12th position. A mistake there at the heel of the boot. Very easily done. 9/10 of a second down, and the inaugural champion of the Asphalt King Series, Kyokudo Racing, finding himself up there at the front to the tune of 1.7 seconds now over Eve Jarku, and almost like art imitates life here on this next run up. Super Uber's looking for another place to gain back against Eve Jarku for position, and would certainly be quite happy if that were to happen out there on track. So really cresting, hoping that he's got that looking towards turn 4, but he's not quite there yet, despite having a purple first sector to go in the back pocket there on the charge. That's a little bit too hefty of a push, but gets away with it. But Addicts here giving chase in 4th position. Remember, he is the Alfa Romeo GT Cup champion, and he's also over at Playcon, won the Hyundai N Rally Challenge. So someone who's definitely picking up accolades left and right over the last 2 years.
He really has, and that's really going to be going nicely on his CV. But a 4th place finish, 4th place at this moment in time, wouldn't be bad for a 4th place finish, especially with the gap he's got to those leaders. But he's got to be careful from behind and hope that he doesn't get undercutted. I wonder if this is kind of where his fight is at with JS19, with Aussie for that 4th place spot. But really good race so far from Addicts. But we now look back here with Super Uber, who is had a bit of a difficult first 5 laps. He has been setting purples, but I think he has had those difficulties that he needs to try and adjust. Maybe just try and keep under control here and just kind of get a reset under him. He doesn't want to be going over aggressive here, because that's going to be really costing him. And I think a sign of desperation won't go good, especially 10 minutes into this race.
Yeah, because we are starting to look now at the pit stop window. He can go as early as now and still make it home to the end of this, but we'd expect maybe about 15th or maybe even the 20th minute being the ideal times to go and make those stops. MMR Super Uber still sat there, and JS19 starting to fall backwards at 1.5 seconds here to Addicts, and every single train I think is important. There's Ivan 46 and Chaos making that recovery, and well, if you believe in Chaos theory, this pass will be Chaos's, but on the outside trying to make it happen, has to squeeze back into line, and then GRG, who's not had the best of races here down in 12th position, wants to try and get himself back into play right now and going through, and on the back I believe that's Christian Samet hoping that he can get himself involved in the action.
And they are looking to maybe do something about this little battle. This is for the latter stages of the points here, but it doesn't look like it's going to be any good for Chaos. He's been involved in a lot over the last couple of laps. I really think he's having his own struggles, but someone who's not having his struggles is Kyokudo, who has pulled out a 2.2 second gap over Eve Jarku. We now head into kind of the night stages. There's a little bit of time duration on this, so we will be falling into a bit of nighttime, maybe even potentially pitch black here. But I wonder how Super Uber's approaching this one, because of course he doesn't want to give up too much to this Porsche, but it's looking like to be a bit more of a difficult race as time goes on for that Honda. But Eve Jarku has really been applying all the pressure. Now he just needs to keep looking ahead rather than what's behind him.
Yeah, and that's the key here. How do you focus forward? And Eve Jarku getting a bit of a gap now to MMR Super Uber, who's maybe been a bit aggressive on the tyres around here, and as such that gap starting to open up, and Jarku coming into his own here with the Porsche and bringing that gap down out there on circuit. So at this point we're really getting a look here at how Eve Jarku is going about it, and you're really looking around at Eve Jarku thinking, you know what, now he is the driver who is maybe looking most likely to challenge here against Kyokudo Racing. Super Uber very much in the mix, might have to be down to a strategy call on tyres and fuel that will get this one over the line. Of course, a track like this being very dependent on being in the slipstream in a straight line also gives a lot of fuel save opportunity.
Does, so sticking in that slipstream, maybe a bit of a lift off before you go into a lot of these corners, so you can do it down into the 90, you can do it down into the chicane, down into maybe the chute and the toe. So definitely keep on tabs with that one. Yeah, the battles are getting pretty close here, but Kyokudo is managing that gap really well here, and I kind of wonder what his strategy is. I think he might try and maybe just go for the cover off of Eve Jarku and Super Uber, because of course he will have that relative with him, so he will be aware if one of them does eventually make their way into the pits, and he can just say, well, all I need to do here is cover them off, and he can make his way and keep that lead of his. But again, just extending that gap 0.3 of a second since I last noticed, and that's just going to ever increase as well. So really nicely fine-tuned is Kyokudo around this circuit, and I think that these two here are just playing a little bit of catch-up. But you see that MMR Super Uber is now starting to pile on the pressure. He's done his reset, and now he's on the push here. You can see the lap times now in the 44s. That 45.0 lap 7 will be a little bit off there, but he's going to try to keep within those mid 44s here, Jake.
Yeah, those mid 44s will be ideal, but of course the tyres will burn away as things continue onwards, and these drivers will be quite alert to the tyres, deciding they don't want to play ball in the long run. You've also got to keep in mind out here that they are driving here in nighttime conditions, and so a lot of your braking markers and your references that you'd naturally use in the daytime are a little bit distorted with the fact that you've got headlights on them as you go around. So you have to be a little bit more awake, a little bit more choice to where that brake marker is, and that's something worth keeping in mind as this goes on. Aussie giving chase to Orland here. This is 6th and 7th out here on the road, and Orland hasn't necessarily driven a bad race here. I think he's been very consistent right now, and Aussie has been right up there and has dropped back a little bit, and now is trying to climb back and clamber back forward. As you can see, Dens and Jensen and Button looking for moves then right now. It's going to be Dens in the Lexus trying to find the pass there on Jensen and Button.
It looks like Jensen and Button hasn't had the worst of races. In fact, he has managed to find himself in that top 8, but he's going to be harried by Dens in that Lexus, who is feeling about his current race at this moment in time. I think he would have definitely wanted more. I think Dens is one of those drivers that is one of those that thinks I would like more out of this race. But there you go, 1.5 seconds to Jensen and Button. That will be served going over the crest as we saw on the exit of the toe. So Dens had that opportunity, and he's also keeping fast here. He's also keeping consistent here. 46.5, 45.7. So maybe that 46.5 last time around a little bit thwarted there, but he will be able to take that place away from Jensen and Button, because that is a big penalty, big slap to the face for Jensen and Button, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's 1.5 seconds without power up the hill. That completely throws the run away. There is Clint Orland there ahead of Aussie and just about keeping that gap. Now we're 10 laps into this race. No driver has yet made a decision to go and make that move. So it's going to be all about challenge and who's going to be making the call at the right time. The longer that they all leave it, the less likely we're going to see an undercut out there in terms of their strategy. And tyres, I think, is going to be a very interesting game as well, because it might have just meant that everybody has been out there on the same strategy. Now that's a change for position. MMR Super Uber through on JACAP, but look at what the last 5 minutes has done to this race right now, because Kyokudo Racing has just not dropped that pace at all. They've been stuck the last 2 laps in 45s. Kyokudo's been kept in the 44s, and now he's got 4 seconds here upstate in New York.
Absolutely, he's been brilliant from the trio of cars, but Kyokudo has just been on the level. He's been a step up above the rest. You can really tell that he's in that Porsche. He has not left. He's come back home, and he's really feeling at home in that Porsche. But another driver that's been impressing me in terms of time, down in 6th place, Orland, has been pretty consistent from the time that I've been seeing it. I'm sure we'll be able to go over to that in just a moment. But yeah, some really, really good stuff from Kyokudo. But Super Uber, I wonder how he's going to now respond to this. And I don't think he had the pace, to be honest. Almost 4 seconds separating Kyokudo and second place driver, Super Uber. Of course, maybe a little bit of momentum and maybe a bit of strategy will come into play for the Honda NSX. Really keeping an eye on what all 3 of these drivers can do and will do. But now it's time to go into that 20-minute mark of the race, and pit stops are drawing ever closer.
I think he's going
Look
in now.
At that Kyokudo.
Yeah, race leader's going to decide out of everybody else to be the first driver in. Soft tyres, 26% of the tank remaining, so this will probably be medium deep. Jaku has followed into the pit. Staying out then has been MMR Super Uber, and you can get the sense right now of who's been a bit more aggressive. Addict's really aggressive on the fuel tank there, 6% of the tank there, more than Yves Jaku used up, and a lot of drivers making that call. And of course, these cool conditions means you get a little bit less wear around this circuit, so that's why we've seen soft, and it's soft to soft, I believe, out there that we've seen right now. There's no requirement, I do believe, to change your tyres mid-race. So if you believe soft tyres can get you all the way, you might as well take 2 sets of softs to make it happen.
Absolutely. If you do believe that soft tires are the way to go, soft, and you've done those tire runs before in the past, and you know that it works, go for it. It's up for you, and I'm sure that they'll be able to make something happen with that. But yeah, you see Eve Jarku now dropping to 4 seconds there. So it looks like Kyoto. So no, for both of us really here, Jake, Kyokudo and Jarku have taken on similar amounts of fuel load here. So I think they might be going to the end because they were held in that pit box for quite a while here. So I wonder if they're maybe fueling to the end here.
I reckon they are. I reckon that they need about 70% of the tank to make that happen. Penalty for Chaos, and Jensen and Button is going to get through. That's a lot of penalty there, 3 seconds, right over to the right-hand side. And you've got no choice on when you serve it. That's the zone that they have it here on Gran Turismo, and every track has its own zone where it goes in. In comes the race leader, MMR Super Uber. They're going to put on a new set of tyres, 24% of the tank, so definitely using a bit less fuel than the rivals around, and Super Uber's going to realise that. JS19's there, and at the moment, Orland was on mediums the entire way forward, so was looking good, but look at how much fuel Orland has used in comparison, down to 8% of the tank. That looks a bit much there for MMR Super Uber, who's going up to 83. That's effectively I would say 86% of the tank trying to get going, and a lot of drivers will be looking to try and get up to speed. It's going to be close here for MMR Super Uber, but you can sense it's a long drive out of the pits. Kyokudo already making his way through the 90, and he's gone up the road. There's nothing there for MMR Super Uber. He almost did well in the overcut, and he'll come out just about with Jarku, in fact, just in front.
Really good stuff there, it seems like, from Super Uber, but I think with the hotter tyres, oh, that's going to be pretty close there from Jarku, trying to slot it up the inside, but MMR Super Uber said, no, you don't. He's trying to keep that 6th place, and a strong defense from there from the Honda. A little bit rough around the edges, but it does mean the Honda is in front. How will Jarku play this one out? Because he will be the hotter, soft tired, but Super Uber with that aggressive maneuver to block. Now,
yeah, that was quite aggressive, and it had to be done. And you really get the sense there that Super Uber was in a bit of a desperate situation, and that desperate situation is coming out of the pits. You don't have the same launch as you go up, and so you need that pace to continue on and get to where you need to. 4 to come in then, JS19, Dens, Ivan, and Shalinu. In comes JS19, just 11% of the tank remaining here on lap 13. Dens will follow, and Dens has been so economical over the course of this one. 23% of the tank still could have gone easily to the 30-minute mark to get that sorted. And as you can see, they're probably only going to need right now about 60% of the tank to get home from this point, especially if you're Dens.
Yeah, I definitely think you maybe go a bit short, and there you go. The 60%, absolutely, you said, it's almost like the magic number there, Jake. But you can see he's going to head out the pit lane now, and hopefully a good amount of efficiency there from Den, could taking up a couple of places. Ivan, 46, now leads this race, but of course he's not made a pit stop, and Zelinu in a 2nd place there with a 1.5 seconds worth of penalty,
right
will
from
be
the leader.
in 2nd place ahead. He is, and I wonder how that's going to be played out here, because Kyokudo will now be aware of that penalty, and I wonder if he's going to have to play it as easy. That's a good idea there. Zelinu knows he's not involved in that battle, so why not just get out the way and focus on your own race there?
Yeah, didn't need to pick a fight with Kyokudo, realised that he got a penalty. It's very heads-up driving by Shalinu out there at this moment in time, realising that the pit stop in that Porsche is coming up in just a moment. We'll just have to get over to the right-hand side of the circuit too, because he's got the group there, of course, of Super Uber and Jarku trying to give some chase onto that as well. And this is going to be jumping on the scene. We'll see what the Honda NSX is going to be able to do. I suppose because we are in the United States here right now, Adam, we'll have to call it an Acura.
You might have to in that case, but Super Uber almost stuck right behind that Porsche. Will he be able to find a way through in these next couple of corners? It doesn't look like it. So Salino is going to try and keep his place here for then making his way into the pit lane. Oh, he's sending Super Uber around the outside. That's exactly what I spoke about in the early coverage of this broadcast, and that was exactly what I was talking about. And it's now slowed up Super Uber as Ivan and Zelinu come into the pit lane. You can see there sent for Zelinu, so very much using all of the tank as much as possible. But yeah, Super Uber in that case got a tad slowed up and now finds himself 3.4 seconds behind Kyoto, and might have to look behind here at Eve Jarku here. Jake, what do you think?
Well, I think what was quite clever there is we've seen some drivers go out on the medium tyre, trying to get themselves to run as long as possible, realising that the softs were just going to fall away a little bit more out there. 5 to the good. Kyokudo Racing finds himself at this point in time and looking nigh on unstoppable here at the second round of the championship at Watkins Glen, knowing here in the pitch black darkness with the stars out here at Watkins Glen that it's Kyokudo who's got everything pretty much set up the way that he would want to in this race, knowing that he's on a quest for the crown and he's got to be pixel perfect for it on top as well. There have been some great runs through the field. Talk about Dens for a second, getting inside the top 5, and that's just been quiet on strategy.
It has, so he's really been efficient. So as you said, being very economical, and I do think that kind of strategy has played a part here. Does find himself up into that P5 spot, so really good stuff there, managing to, I believe, overcut everyone, but just be efficient, be consistent, and that's kind of the reward you get here with Dens. He's going to try and chase down IS and Birmingham or Addict for 4th place. But interesting to see how that battle is going to go, if they are close enough.
Well, it's all about how JACAP can respond here at 1.2 seconds. It's close, but not necessarily in a position where he can go out there and manage a way through and get that place. And look at that gap now, 1.7. So a mistake up through the S's. Not often that we see that. But it just goes to show you how tough the S's are. Turns 2, 3, and 4. You've got to try and funnel single file. Very easy to get in trouble. Speaking of trouble, watch out for Super Uber getting out there. Half a second's worth of penalty as well. Let's see if Jarku right back in just as the coast was clear.
Super unfortunate there. It just took a bit too much through the chicane. Saw that purple sector and thought I'm going to try and take this. This is a battle for 4th place, and Dens is really feeling the attack here on Addict. Addict's just having to go defense here. Captain Dens float that Lexus around the outside. No, he's going to try and cut in here and go over the crest, and Dens is going to try and fight this with all he had. Is he now going to pull to the left-hand side? He will do. He'll pop out from behind the Porsche, try and fight it around the outside. Addict will leave him with little to no room, and they come back up the hill we go. And I think Addict is just going to keep in front on this one. Will it be a move down towards turn number 1? Well, they have to be aware here because JS19 is also in behind, so he can happily take a move. It did need to get too close for comfort here, Jake.
Well, they're close, but the question's going to be who pounces on who. Addict's really defending. Dens opening up the door here on the inside. JS19 moving over to the right-hand side, trying to give a bit of push here to Dens, or maybe funnel through around the outside. It's a brave move to try and make that happen, and effectively sharing headlight space cuts him up and under, looking for the pass up the hill. We're going to search with 10 minutes almost on the clock. 10:45. JS19 sweeps around the outside of 3, inside of 4, using Addicts as the way to get the draft and getting the move done. And now look at a slingshot on the straight here, because this is how the move's done. JS19 down the inside, and they push each other off the road for Dens to now try and sweep around the outside of the carousel. Sensational stuff. Dens, with the experience, with champions experience, has the inside for the shoot, and now will get the move as JS19 barges his way through. Addicts now searches for the inside. Dens just about holds.
This is really excellent stuff here, Jake. Really close racing, and JS19 just proving to be a tad aggressive in this one. He doesn't mind getting his shoulders out, sending a little barge to the side door of Alex. They power their way, drag race their way down in towards the right-hander of the heel, and Alex will right that around the outside. The brake disc glow in the night sky here under the, well, I was going to say under the light, but under the headlights here at Watkins, Glen. Really good stuff from all three of them. A little bit of racing room, but also a little bit of roughness as well in that case. But they're going to go again once again. I think round 2 is on very soon. And JS19 wants that position, and badly.
Yeah, definitely does. Addicts, of course, had spent a lot of last season battling it out with Dens, but there's the look from JS19, straight down the inside. No doubts about that one being made. That was comfy in terms of a pass, and Dens has already pulled out a second's worth of gap here from these drivers, 4th, 5th and 6th, and now you're looking at 7th, and Aussie's trying to get close to this one too, so don't count him out in terms of the latter stages of this race. But you're definitely getting these drivers waking up now, realizing, right, we've done all of the easy bit right now, it's time to bring it home and get it all sorted. And those last positions in the final quarter of this race, they do stack up at the end of the season. This is what you normally judge your season by. How good are you in the clutch of these races when you've been scrapping it out all day long here in these 40-minute races?
I do think that these guys are going to continue going at it, but they've really got to give themselves a big old pat on the back. And another driver who's going to be giving himself a big pat on the back, Kyokudo, managing this race so well. His strategy has really been on point all throughout this all throughout this 32 minutes that have just flown by tonight here. But Super Uber will be trying his best, but he will be hoping to maybe fend off from Eve Jarko. I do wonder which way Super Uber is going to be looking, because of course he's got a massive way forward, and looking at behind him, he's got a whole host of headlights in his rear view mirror. So how much will that pay a distraction to the our championship leader? But you can see though those 3 cars of JS19, Addicts, and of course Dens as well, to really starting to make something happen. That's Christian Sam, and he's been hit round.
Yeah, that's Jensen and Button who he's collided with out there. So very quickly, those drivers have dropped down there at turn 9, where it's very easy to take a wide line in or a shallow line in and then just converge at the middle like all lines do. So Sam are able to keep going. It's brought Ivan 46 back into play, and they're now about 27 seconds behind that next group. There's Chaos down at the back. Another half a second's worth of penalty that he'll be picking up. It's been a torrid time, and actually could be soon on the lap list, but he's going to be hoping that 6.5 seconds is going to pull him back in range. Kyokudo dominant here at the moment, and MMR Super Uber has not been able to fully break away. You can look at that gap, it's 0.7 of a second here. Eve Jarku has driven a very concerted race at this point. He realizes that this moment in time right now, Adam, this is where Eve Jarku wants to be, battling Super Uber in the final stages of this race. Oh, 1.5 will say he absolutely will.
Oh, that's going to be frustrating there for MMR Super Uber. Played a really good race up until now, but just been getting those tiny couple of penalties that have been super costly. And now Eve Jarku will get that opportunity to go on through, just piling on the pressure on that Honda. You can see that now Eve Jarku now going to potentially take that second place. And I was about to say, that's exactly where he wants to be. He wants to be following in the clutches of the wheel tracks of MMR Super Uber to just see where he is better off and worse off, and then maybe attack in those final stages, because we do have about 10 minutes remaining of this race. With a big penalty like that coming in the way of our championship leader. I hope this won't be a sign of things to come in the next couple of rounds, but he did play a strong one in Interlagos. There will be a little bit of a downhead in terms of the momentum of Super Uber, but he shouldn't let this one go to waste now. Just keep on the back of Jaku as much as you possibly can and just go for it. Just try and get that second place back. Still not over by far.
Well, penalty problems have been the crux of Super Uber's day. Moves over hard to the left-hand side. Yves Jacu comfortably jumps through, and the penalty is a lot more than 1.5 seconds. In fact, he's now down by 1.7 seconds. So effectively, it was a 2.5 second penalty when you add for the time to getting back up to speed. It is a hefty lump, and it's going to need Rexy to effectively go extinct for a way to try and jump forward back into second position once again, and it will be a tall order to manage that and make that happen, and what has been a tough ordeal. But you have to give credit where credit is due up and down the order, because there are drivers who have gone out there and put together some wonderful showcases of driving here today, realizing that the points are going to be important to them when we keep on ticking through the season, and we consider it's just a 7-day turnaround for the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, which is slightly different. Well, not slightly, it's very different to here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, of course, two different circuits. This one very fast, and of course a little bit of technical. With Laguna Seca, there's a lot of technicalities to that circuit. Big battle between Orland and Aussie. So these two are going to try and fight it out here, but of course, unfortunately, a second and a half penalty there for Aussie. But is he still going to try and go for the move going into this next chicane? Well, Orland's still looking quick as ever, setting that purple middle sector, but he's gone off. Aussie has followed in pursuit. Unfortunately, there is going to cost himself more time, but decent race from the both of them. Maybe less so for Aussie. Hewitt again, another driver that I was hoping for more. Battle here for 10th, 11th and 12th, so not much in terms of that one. That's only for a singular point, but this is the man of the moment at this moment in time. Kyokudo Racing leading from the field, 8 seconds advantage in the way of the Maltese driver.
So with Kyokudo Racing 8.5 to the good, he has got himself a handful of laps remaining here at Watkins Glen, underneath the lights, so to speak. He has had a stellar performance, and the stars are very much showing that out there at this point, rushing through the opening corner of the 90 and climbing up the hill. With a performance like this compared to how dominant Super Uber was last time out over at Interlagos here, Adam, the question is going to be asked right now, can Kyokudo Racing consistently put this sort of result together and mount a challenge to Super Uber in the long and short?
Definitely, I do think if he continues to appear in this championship and build on the momentum that he currently has now, I see no reason why he can't just mount a championship challenge. I mean, if the pace is showing in these early stages, then of course he will have that opportunity. And of course, the previous champion, I'm sure you said, of the Asphalt Kings series, yeah, for sure, I'd love to see back in the championship next time around in Laguna Seca next week as well, so stay tuned for that one. But this is another battle we need to stay tuned on, because Super Uber has managed to go through his tyres and gain here on Yves Jacu, so really trying to reapply the pressure on that one and take back what used to be his and just gain another 3 points from what he currently has this moment in time.
Well, this will be his last lap he's going on to, though. As you look at the clock, Kyokudo Racing has already started it, and now it does set up here. Yves Jacu is being reeled in out there by MMR Super Uber, who's trying to go to another place on the tyres to make that happen. JS is also not giving this one up. He's got eyes on 4th position. The Lexus then of Dens trying to gain that spot, and Orland is seeing Addicts, and GRG has got through on Aussie, so Aussie's now fallen back into 9th place in all of that. So a lot of places to be decided here on the final lap of this race. But surely it's second and third where the focus will have to be out there at the moment, as you can sense all those drivers nearer the back of the field all the way to chaos. There's your race leader, Kyokudo. He's 9 seconds clear, but of who will be the question at the end. 0.6 of a second, 0.5 of a second. Now the gap as JACAP gets reeled in more and more. MMR, Super Uber, there's the confirmation. This is the final lap, and chances, the great chance, wasn't able to close in enough on JACAP. But here down through on the shoot section here in upstate New York, is this going to be where MMR Super Uber is able to turn the screw? At half a second back, he needs a couple of good corners here, and he will be in the wheelhouse to try and attack. JACAP struggling with grip there through the middle of the corner. The run will be brilliant up the hill for Super Uber as he pulls it again back to within 0.6 of a second, but that gap is extending out. But nobody could stop this driver here today as it closed and closed and closed behind. He was faultless in every single sense of the word. The gap's getting close, but it looks like there's going to be old father time to speak for Super Uber. But for Kyokudo Racing, it is going to be as stellar as it gets, and underneath the constellations, Kyokudo was Ursa Major in this one. JACAP will take second ahead of Super Uber, who will be ruining the amount of penalties he picked up today at the Glen.
Oh, brilliant race overall. Dens comes home to take 4, so you were right, Jake. The race pace for Dens really paying a contribution there. I really think he did deserve it. Massey and Orland out of fuel, just going to take 8th at the line. But that top 3 really proving to use all our action up today. But yeah, really, really super. And it's going to be victory there for Kyokudo Racing for our Asphalt Kings round 2 of the championship at Watkins Glen. And there you can see it. It is done and dusted, and on to the other circuit on the west side of the states. We're heading to, of course, Laguna Seca next time around. I really think we're going to be seeing the same what we saw tonight.
Well, that, of course, will be in 7 days' time in terms of that challenge. But a circuit out there, that'll be really important. Here's your confirmation result. A 9-second victory for Kyokudo Racing over JACAP. MMR Super Uber there in third with Dens. JS19 unable to close in enough. Got it down to 0.4 in the end in 5th. With Addicts then in 6th. GRG.GG would get by Orland on the final lap. So it looked like Orland ran into maybe a couple of mistakes, or maybe came together with Addicts, which meant that GRG was able to jump through. Of course, it would have been Aussie in 9th position out there, who was trying to chase down the group in its entirety. So it looked like there was a bit of drama there towards the end. GRG, by the way, with the fastest lap, down in 7th position, was on the wrong foot to begin with there, Adam, and needed a little bit of luck to try and push back forward in his 911 RSR.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good result from our top 3, but of course, GRG.GG putting in a good amount of pace, but I think you just some wrong points at the wrong time, and of course just wasn't able to fully extract the consistency. But of course he does look fast. I think maybe if he does get that practice into Laguna Seca, he can cause a couple of upsets here, maybe take a top 5 finish, which I think a lot of our drivers will be trying to get, maybe even extend it a little bit to a top 6 or a top 8 as well, just try and boost her up their points, and know that they're capable of great things in this field of Porsches and Hondas, and of course the Lexus in there as well. So a lot of drivers with great potential, but I think it's just trying to extract everything, all the racing bits and pieces that you need to create a good race for kind of the caliber that you have. I really do think that a lot of drivers have great potential to score some great points, but yeah, a really good race, and it makes me excited to see what Laguna Seca will bring, as well as the rest of the championship as well.
Well, one thing to note is that they will be tackling maybe the most famous and arguably the most difficult chicane that racing can offer anybody. The dreaded corkscrew is going to be in the minds of these drivers in just 7 days' time. You will definitely want to tune in with us at Velocity Esports Racing for it in a show brought to you by Hyundai, by Intercomp, by Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, JACAP, and the one in the top right of your screen, GamingMalta. This is a Malta GT3 championship. This is Asphalt Kings. And when the old conquered king decides to return underneath the stars over at Watkins Glen, everybody takes a step back and watches in awe. It was simply dominance from Kyokudo Racing, who did not put a foot wrong, where Super Uber, by comparison, found himself dealing with penalties on 2, maybe even 3 different occasions tonight. He's got to find that trend back again over at Laguna Seca, and also keep an eye on Jaku and Dens. They're starting to make some progress to try and make a challenge as well. We'll see you in 7 days as we head California side on the west side and over to Laguna Seca.